Newton, grandfather, and they sat down and used the U.S. Constitution as a backdrop and wrote the 10-step program of the Black Panther Party. And so I think it's important to start off. All the tenets are very important. They're still applicable to our society today. I think they're a basis that everyone should live by and strive by. But I think we should just start the discussion with some of the points that I think are key to what we're speaking about right now. So the first one is we want freedom. We want the power to determine the destiny of our Black community. We believe the Black people will not be free until we're able to determine our destiny. Number 5 states, we want education for our people that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in the present day society. We believe in an educational system that will give our people knowledge of self, which is the tattoo we have yet to get in Miami. If a man does not have knowledge of himself and his position in society and the world, then he has little chance to relate to anything else. And lastly, we want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace.
Yes.
Thank you, Noel. I've asked Noah to do this before. I didn't tell her I was going to do this, so I'm kind of putting her on the spot. But she speaks so eloquently about how she's able to tie these tenets into her work, current work, and which she hopes to evolve into in the future. I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So quoting Eddie Chalmey, when I saw him, he said he was having a bit of an identity crisis as Australian born, but also Lebanese, and ended up returning back to his homeland to start his project. Now, those lines, identity crisis, kind of stuck with me as a duality of a biracial person and also the duality that exists as an African-American person. There's two worlds of that kind of correlate in my brain and in my existence and in my movement. And so these tenets I was raised with my father and also my mother definitely encouraged and supported that, and has her own form of her activism and her life. And I have found that these points have all related back to winemaking and my intention that exists and why I decided to pursue it, and then also what I hope for the future to come. And when I speak of this duality in terms of being biracial, it's being on both sides. It's like existing with my father, who had this radical upbringing in Oakland with these activists that have changed the course of Black Americans and now are actually finally getting this recognition that is long, long overdue. And then also existing in this world on my mother's side that has come from generational wealth and that does have land and does have this space that we all want access to in order to really pursue and like fully explore what we're all speaking about here. But within this duality is I don't yet have access to this land to create these projects that I envision for all of us to share, for all of us to work together. And I always go back to what the 10 point is we want land, bread, housing, justice, and peace. And all these components have to come together, I think, in order to really fulfill what we want to do and to really push this revolution forward is land ownership. And I know Chris speaks a lot about that as well. But my goal and my deepest hope right now, I feel like I'm really focused, and Will and I are really focused on building and just learning because we're quite young, and every year we're learning something new, and I think that's in general with being winemakers. But I do hope to be able to gain all this knowledge and then to eventually have access to this land and be able to spread that on a larger scale. The 10 steps of the Black Panther program into how we work with the Shanta wines and community.
Chris, in addition to, and you were very open about this, in addition to you knowing that you would do justice by the land, if you just have access to it, and I know that we can speak to that. Additionally, and you spoke about this a little bit on your earlier panel, but I'd really like to speak about how you leverage wine in a mutual aid space, both with 280 as an apprenticeship program and working out of the vineyard to feed your community.
The word leverage. Yeah. So leverage, I think doing the right thing makes other people feel like they're forced to do the right thing. Like, yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like I haven't liked what I've been experiencing and seeing in the industry for a very long time. So I decided that I should do something different. And with the help of my friends and other people around me, I feel like we've started to make waves that people feel like they have to be afraid of sometimes. Similar to the Black Panther Party. Even if people don't want to support it, they attach themselves to it. And I'm very aware of it. So I'm always paying attention and I don't always let everybody around me. But it's for safety reasons and it's for making sure that the right outcome does happen because it's my choice. It's me. It's my friends. You know what I mean? We have the power to actually steer our ship. If we don't do that, then we will look back later on and be upset that we didn't do the work we could have done. So I think that you only get certain opportunities in time. And when this vineyard landed in my lap, I knew it was my time. You know, there have been a few times in my life where I've had choices to either go different directions. And this one, I was like, I knew exactly what I had to do. And it's not because I only knew how to work in restaurants. It's not because I saw Black people lacking, people of color lacking, you know what I mean? It was everything that I've been through in my life that I can't just shrug off. And that happens to me all the time. You know? It's stuff that happens to people every day. And it's like wine is literally just the vehicle to talk about this kind of stuff. When I work at my job and I sell people wine and they act snooty, it's an opportunity to educate them on that shit doesn't work here. When people want to be kind and have a great time with wine and open up their facilities, they become allies. You know what I mean? So it's very simple. And I think the part of 280 is which side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the right side or do you want to keep hurting people? And soon, I think in life, we're going to be able to see that without even having to worry about it. I think people are doing that to themselves. So for me, access to the land is literally just making sure that people that want it, because everybody deserves it, but people that really want to take care of it, do it the right way, have the opportunities to do it. And, you know, I think there are people that really care that just don't get that help. And sadly, people that have generational wealth, things like that, sometimes just take advantage and steal from us still. So it's our time to take back all of our shit. It's always been that time, but I think now we have like literally a window. And I've been telling you here for a long time, like, when is that window close? And I worry about it all the time. You know, when is fundraising going to stop? When are people going to stop worrying about Black people getting choked to death? All these types of things. I attach all of this to land. This is what happens to Black people getting chased off their land, getting lynched for their land. Like, literally, like I was on the airplane today and I saw 12 Years a Slave. Like, that's what I watched. It was crazy. It was like real because that's what we're talking about is farmland. We're talking about people still today not getting to access land, and not because just their color, it's because they don't financially get paid the same. They can't get the same loans. They don't have people talking to them to like explain legal jargon. You know what I mean? Like, these are all things that we really need to bring into the fold. You know what I mean? That's what we all can do together. You know, that's what Tulsa, Oklahoma was. That's what the Black Panther Party was. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is today, but it's literally community. You know what I mean? So going into Feed the People, feeding the community is simple. People are hungry. I work at a farm. The people that say they want to take care of Black people don't actually do it. So I actually do it. And same thing. What do I experience? People trying to steal from me. They want to attach my name to things that they put into the mayor's office to get their shit passed. But do they pay the money that they're supposed to like pay me? No. And that's what we experience. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna stop doing what I do because they're still on demon time. You gotta still be doing the right shit all the time. You know what I mean? Because one day we will meet in the right place and they're not gonna be able to say they did the right things. That's basically it.
Even kind of justice around here. And I think that's a really good opportunity to say, you said theft, and it really is ringing in my head because exploitation is theft. You know, you're stealing labor, you're stealing life force, you're stealing energy. And I think that's a great segue to talk about worker-owned structures, to talk about cooperativity.
I'm very thankful that this panel is coming at the end of our day today, because I think that a lot of the topics that have been touched on today and a lot of the stress points that we feel and that we see and that we've been discussing can long-term be remedied, solved by solidarity economics. And when I say that, I mean an economic system, not necessarily something that is set up governmentally, but something that is more established communally, that prioritizes people and the planet over profit. And so that is to say, you know, giving the example of Calce, we are prioritizing ourselves, we are prioritizing our region. And our main goal, of course, is to make delicious wine, of course, is to, you know, utilize the bounty that has been given to us, but also like we want to retire with dignity. It's a business, we're doing something, but all of us are millennials. You know, there are student loans to think about, there's inflation to think about, there are all of these systems. I feel like I've been working the same job over and over again for the last 12 years, making pretty much the exact same amount of money, but I'm so much more of an expert than I was then, and I'm so much more of a self-advocate now, and yet I have this knowledge and I have this internal power, but the system keeps me in my place. And so the only way that we can really subjugate any of that, the only way that we can circumvent any of that is by creating our own system. And so that's really what we've been talking about today, is how we're starting this revolution, how we are taking, because solidarity economics, it's not something that's new. These are the economics that our people had. This was the way that we lived until the first capitalists came over trying to steal all of the resources and sell things. So we are trying to go back to a place of supporting our community and trusting each other and providing as much as we can and taking only what we need and prioritizing the people who need it more than us in that moment. And so I think that some of the things that we have been talking about today, in terms of, just like creating these new systems, they are not going to give us a pathway within our current economic system to succeed. The system was created, the system has stops in place so that we can't be equal. We'll never be equal within the system that was made to oppress us. So what we need to do is to create more organizations, create more awareness to foster these bonds and these attachments so that we will continue to care about each other and to put in the work to lift each other up, to climb up the ladder and immediately turn around and put your hand down for the next person. Something that has been on my mind a lot recently. There is this phenomenon that is going to become more and more talked about over the next decade, but it's what people are calling the silver tsunami. And the baby boomers, within the next 10 years, the majority of them will be of retirement age if they aren't now already. And those are the people who own about 75% of the businesses in this country. And so what is going to happen to our economy when these people decide that they want to sell the business to a billionaire investor? They want to dissolve the business because their, Nepo babies don't want to take over. They want to, like sell it to an investor in China who's then going to, completely mechanize everything and do away with the need for workers. And so I was at the national conference for the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops back in September in Philadelphia. And they were saying that, we need to educate ourselves a lot more on what it is to be an employee-owned business and the power that we have as employees, as laborers, to stand up to employers and not just stand up in a combative way, but to present them with the option like, hey, we see your dream. We see this thing that you have created and we want to take it and we want to keep it. And we want to make it work. And we aren't asking, for a handout. Nobody is asking for free anything. We are looking to put in the exact same amount or more labor than we currently are, but have our power, which is something that we don't have right now. And two examples that are the things that have been sticking with me. There were two really big company sales that happened over the last couple of months. So one of them that I'm sure we saw all over social media was Patagonia, right? So Patagonia, they were, blowing smoke up their own asses, being like, we sold our company to the environment and everyone should be so thankful. Like, this is transformative. This is revolutionary. No, what they did was they circumvented all taxes. They pretty much made it into a nonprofit. They are able to profit even more off of the company. The CEO is still in charge. The planet isn't really getting anything because they're still making shitty products out of plastic that are going to be degrading for the next 10,000 years. And what actually happened is they just made a big publicity stunt. Now, 2 weeks later, there was the sale of Astor Wines in New York, and it got sold to its employees. And something that I found really interesting was that you heard about it for 48 hours, maybe 72. And I'm still seeing shit about Patagonia and how proud they are of themselves for selling their shit to the planet. The planet doesn't want your fucking company. The planet doesn't want your company. The planet wants you to stop shipping stuff. The planet wants you to actually give a shit about the people that it created. And so I think it's just, I'm going to get a little bit too heated, but I think that I brought up my jacket thinking I was going to be cold. Oh no, I'm hot. Basically, all of that is to say that there will soon be a lot of opportunities for us as the bodies that are the majority of the labor force in this country and around the world. We are the global majority. And I think that it is high time for us to reclaim this power and to really live in that power. And we can do that in this way that our ancestors did. We can do this together. We can create a community. We can work together and provide. And so solidarity economics, it's time for everyone to get into it.
For those of you who are not familiar with Astor Wine and Spirits, this is one of probably the biggest wine store in New York City. They ship nationally. They buy by the 10 case drop. They're huge, multi-million-dollar company. The fact that they sold to their employees is nothing to scoff at. It's huge. I encourage you to look this up just to get an idea of what's happening in the wine world right now. It's really it was a beautiful thing. Garrett Oliver, who owns Brooklyn Brewery, really a pioneer in space. He shared with me something that he clicked off of Chris Newman, Sylvan Aqua Farms, native farmer. And he basically was saying that within capitalism, the way to check yourself on integrity and make sure that you are moving with integrity and not being driven by the system is to prioritize community as the deliverable. And if we are working within the framework that community is the deliverable, everything else is just kind of residual, then we can be sure that we're being guided from the right place. I want to say that ABV community is the deliverable. When I say we bootstrap this thing, this is a gift. Paradise has gifted us the space for 3 days. These winemakers have come down and they have gifted us the wine. All the people that you see working today are gifting their energy and their labor. Nobody at all is profiting from this. It's quite opposite. And we love this. We love the energy that we're receiving. We love that when we leave the space, the experience is going to stick and hopefully be shared with other people. That is our, as a community, that is our deliverable. I kind of want to go around and ask you what that means to you. What is your deliverable to your community, and how do you keep yourself centered in the work?
I try to be kind to people as much as I possibly can all the time. I try to see every single person in the world. I try to not pretend like people aren't there, even if they don't have a home. You know what I mean? It's simple shit like that, like making eye contact, saying hello to people, asking how they're doing. I start with that, and then I go into my job, and then I like getting good customer service. And then within good customer service, I also have very meaningful conversations with people every single day. I ask them about their lives. I get to know who people are. That kind of shit, no matter what they look like. And you'd be surprised how many people treat me with respect. It's awesome. It's crazy. It's like this magic formula that if you treat people well, they treat you well too. So yeah, I kind of like to move like that, but then also just respecting my boundaries and trying to make sure that people don't try and take advantage of me or walk over me, or people around me. I like to stand up for other people that probably can't defend themselves in the moment. Yeah, I feel like if we are all moving that way, then nobody's getting hurt. Because I see a lot of the time, especially where I live in San Francisco, somebody's getting harmed, people just close their blinds or they look the other way. And I think that that's how people keep winning, but not the good side. And it's scary sometimes, but you got to stand up, you know? And I think that's what this is. The industry is a very big industry of people that do really shitty things. But within it, there are lots of good people. So if you keep working with the good people, eventually we will outnumber.
Sound like a Nietzsche Buddhist. Can you share a little bit about the internship program, please?
So yeah, the viticultural program will start again here in March, but it's a paid apprenticeship. And yeah, we go up and down the California coast. And yeah, it's hard to explain, but I don't really have any expectations other than people to come and find who they are within the industry. I'm not trying to coach nobody or do anything like that. I think Rita and I, Janae, we just all provide space. See Matthias, Beth at UC Davis. We literally want to open the doors for shit that people that keep it closed. And the people that we have around us are some of the most trusting and loving people. So I think starting there is just it, man. It's like if you can pay people to take time off to find out their passion, especially if they're already there, and you actually provide them with opportunities for good jobs, shit like that, you know what I mean? But same thing, like maybe we haven't met the billionaire who's gonna give away land, but we will. We'll find out those people, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But that kind of stuff, yeah, and it's all about opportunity. It's like, you know, if you want a job, if you want to change your career, if you want to like just make friends, because the wine industry, food, hospitality, the shit's clicky. I don't like it like that. So like for me, it's like I want to fucking talk to everybody. So that's why you start something like this. So, you know, if anybody's interested, applications will be opening soon. And yeah, literally it's 6 months of meeting every Friday. And we just travel around and meet the best winemakers, some of the shittiest winemakers. Yeah, we go to wineries, we go everywhere. We learn about business, we learn about who's real and who's not. You can find out who allies are with talk to. They can't really fake.
I'm just going to repeat the question. Community as the deliverable. So instead of looking at it as a monetary exchange, looking at it as a communal exchange, really establishing synergy, I suppose, what that means to you.
I think for me, that means observing, listening, being humble, holding space for everyone's voice, and then translating that through story. And so whether that story is the wine or writing or, definitely I think what is occurring right now and every time I am around the amazing, beautiful people, it's just like so much emotions. And I never get this emotional only when I'm around you guys. Now I'm around you more and more. I'm like, God, right? Every time I look, I can't look at your gut. You're gonna make me cry. But within that is, it's deep, profound emotion. And that sense of revolution, that's really what I feel every time I gather. And this space is so important. And it really feels like in 40 years right now, we could be interviewed with gray hair and talking about how we revolutionized the wine industry. But within that, those visions that I see, I also see the now of that. I also see creating, using my film background and Will's film background, creating our story now and actually showcasing that now and showcasing that growth. And when I talk about these interviews that were old, and it's like almost like this archival footage of where we were. And so I might be quiet sometimes or maybe too loud, depending on how much rock I'm drinking. But I think a lot for me is deep observation and in reflection and going back to the country and writing our stories and making the necessary moves to get this published and out there on a much bigger scale.
I think for Calce, the idea of community as a deliverable, the way that we're constructing that is a little bit less in like our personal interactions outside of work, but more in the organization and actual foundation that we are laying in our bylaws, in our policies. We started this business with the goal of changing the wine industry, of deconstructing a system that was created to perpetuate white supremacy, chauvinism, power, and profit, to steer away from systems that lift up and praise, landowners, that lift up and praise people that are able to hold on to money through times of scarcity, those people that are able to, float through because of what they were given. And so the way that we are treating community as a deliverable, we are hoping to use our business plan as a blueprint for other people to also lift up their communities. We talk a lot about what growth looks like, and especially now we just finished our second vintage. We're going into our third harvest and trying to figure out how do we scale up. That's what you always hear from like business people and investors: scale, scale. And it's like, well, you do that typically by exploitation. And so the way that we've been talking about it, and the way we've been talking about community as a deliverable is, what if we turn it on its axis? What if that scale is not vertical, but it's horizontal? How far can we get this blueprint? How many businesses can we activate with our business plan? How many other worker cooperatives can we inspire to start? Because there are a lot of statistics out there about democratic business, worker cooperative, solidarity economics, but if you look at it on paper, it is the smartest investment that you can make. It is the smartest way to open a business. It is the least risky way to open a business because you're leveraging your community. So not only are you using community as the product, but the community is also your resource. So it's this give and take, and it's mutual. And when you are creating something that's not extractive, when you're creating something that can perpetuate without bleeding its community dry, it's something that can go on infinitely. And so that's what we're hoping to create, and that's how we see the people around us, the places around us. We don't necessarily see Calce as being like the biggest winery in Vermont. We don't necessarily want that. We don't think that that Vermont Calche will get bigger than 5 or 6 people. But then, you know, there's Philly, there's Oakland, there's Detroit, you know, there's Asheville. There are all these places that, you know, could also use other places with brown people that, you know, are brilliant and, you know, just like so capable and so ready to do something, but they just haven't had the resources or the inspiration or even, you know, the tools to know that you can start a business without collateral. You can start a business without predatory loan terms. You can start a business without having to sell out. You know, you don't need to be on Shark Tank to be able to sell your product. Someone doesn't need to get royalties and like a percentage of your business just because they give you money. Like, money isn't actually a gift if they're taking from you. It's not actually an investment if they are then stealing from you and stealing your idea and, you know, profiting off of your hard work. And so one of the things that we have committed to and we hope to see a lot more of is, you know, any investment that we get, we refuse input. So you can give us your money, you can invest your money, you will get it back with interest, but that's it. We don't want your opinion. If you are not putting your sweat in, then we don't care about what you have to say. Like, if you work for your vote or you don't get a vote. One worker, one vote, period. And so that, I think, is that's the way that I can see our community as a product.
We only have 10 minutes and there are like 15 points that I want to make. So I'm going to throw 2 out. I'm going to throw 2 out and I'm going to pass around the mic and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Thank you. One of them, and this is specifically for you, Chris, the way that you make wine currently is by folks opening up their facility to you, which is mutual aid, which is solidarity economics, very much at its core. So I'd like to hear just a little bit about those dynamics. I also want to acknowledge that it's hard to ask for help sometimes and kind of tap into how you navigate that. I know it's deeply personal. Yeah.
I have no problem talking about it. Yeah, it's funny. It's I've been trying to find a winery space since 3-4 years or something, but they cost a lot of money. I don't have any money, but I have the passion, and I feel like I can make good wine. But I don't see any investors that don't look like me running to help me. You know what I mean? And I also don't see investors that look like me running to help me. So that's where it gets complicated. But I did find a guy named Matt Neese that straight up offered on his own. That guy is a real motherfucker. You know? Same thing, Steve Mathiasen, opening his vineyard, his doors, his contacts, real life shit. You know, so it's like those are the people that I'm going to lean on. Of course, I can probably have better business plans, all these things. That takes up too, but yeah. Well, we're here. We're in the community now. It's but it's hard. You know what I mean? It's like there's only so many times you can ask without getting fucking feelings hurt or feeling like, why do you even come around me if you're just not going to actually help? You know what I mean? I feel like I help all the time, no matter what it is, and I don't ask for anything back. You know what I mean? And I don't see that kind of shit reciprocated. I don't see a lot of people going out of their way to do that for anybody. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like if I gotta fucking rock with Matt, then I'll rock with Matt until the right thing happens. You know what I mean? But I tell everybody when people are like, "Oh, you gotta make more wine. You gotta sell wine. That's how you make more money." I'm like, then fucking give me money. I can't buy grapes. You guys know you gotta buy grapes, right? Yeah, you gotta buy winery space. You gotta buy time. You gotta buy barrels. Nothing is free in this world. That's what's crazy. But this man is taking a dip out of his own life, you know what I mean, to help someone else. And I don't think he's doing it for clout. I think he genuinely wants to see us succeed, and he really wants to see the industry change. You know what I mean? So it's I'm happy with that right now. I don't care. I would rather hand out bottles that I make in my garage and not sell them. I'll just give them to people. I don't know. I think they're like collectible items.
Thank you. And then on this side, I don't think that we would really be doing this event justice if we did not bring up sustainability, both environmental and social. Chinoa, especially with what y'all do in foraging, but also getting into foraging grapes, which if you can forage wild grapes, they most definitely have native parentage. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to this anything but vinifera conversation in the context of environmental sustainability. And I think that's a through thread if we can speak a little bit about solidarity economics and social sustainability and what that means for us as people. And I think that'll be a really nice way for us to kind of end the day.
I mean, there's definitely, I think, a sustainability that exists within foraging, because usually these vines or these trees or these bushes aren't taking resources away. And so much you see in Napa and Sonoma Valley is just ripped out vineyards that are then replanted. And that takes a lot of labor, it takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of water. When these vines are completely viable, just people think that they reach 30 years and they're not on their peak anymore, and let's rip them out and plant a whole new vineyard. As if there's not enough grapes available. And California has a plethora of grapes available. And what we found through these foraging projects is that they're growing, I mean, at least with these vines, like they're growing on the side of the road, they're growing within trees, and within the sustainability that also exists, they're cohabitating with the other organic fauna and flora that lives there. And so they're actually sharing these resources with one another. It's not monoculture. It's biodiversity within its most natural form. And I think we tap into that with the way that we forage, and then at least try to approach these vineyards with the same idea of sustainability. Some dry farm, a lot do minimal watering, and a lot of them also aren't ripping up their vineyards. They're letting them go until they are unable to survive anymore. Okay.
I think that it's important to note first that while this organization is named anything but vinifera, it is far from exclusionary. We're not actually taking vinifera out of the conversation. It's a yes and. So what we are doing is constantly questioning the systems that are in place that have put this particular grape, on a pedestal. So I think that there's a lot of unlearning that we have to do and a lot of unpacking that we have to do, and that, absolutism in any form is toxic. So of course, we are not going to say anything about vinifera, but we're also absolutely in full disagreement that it should exclusively be vinifera, or that, vinifera is the only thing that you can make fine wine with, or, the idea of noble grapes and equating grapes to some kind of like aristocracy, and they're somehow, that much more luxurious. They warrant that much higher of a price. All of that language is completely loaded, and it was done intentionally. It was done to put down and to make less than things that grew freely, things that were coveted by people of color, things that people could make themselves. We were told that, that was something that we should not strive to, or shouldn't strive to achieve, shouldn't strive to make. And I think that, getting back to the solidarity economics of it all, it's all about reframing our minds and reframing our thought processes past a system that was created to keep us down. And so I think that with what we're doing here at ABV and creating this community, I really hope that you all will leave here today with enthusiasm, and you'll leave here, feeling like there is hope. and that we aren't just watching the world burn down around us, and that you specifically, every single one here absolutely has all the tools that they need to start their own business, to make their own wine, to, like start a revolution in your workplace or in the world, because we have that inside of us. And I think that, I think that what the goal should be is to constantly be questioning everything that we have been taught, and to go with what feels good and what feels nice and what feels kind, to go back to what Chris was saying. And making sure that if you do see injustice, that we are calling it out and that we are screaming with our whole chest that we see something that is wrong, and that there are better options out there, because there's always an option to be kind.
Yeah, we're at the end. Before I flip it, I want to see if y'all have any questions. But I just want to ground us real quick. We've gone all over the place, and thank you for that. As Chris came, wine is our lens. And if this is the work that you are looking to support, ask about hybrid wines. Ask about muscadine. Ask about muscadine. Ask about native grapes. Go pick some shit and see if you can juice it and leave it in the corner, and if it ferments. Miami is a market that has eyes on it, y'all. You guys have power. Folks are opening up restaurants down here and killing it in a way that New Yorkers are like, oh, people don't come to New York anymore to open restaurants. Now they're down here. It's a real thing. And so with an industry that people have eyes on, there is the potential for great buying power. And with great buying power, and Bianca, wherever she is, can tell you this, you got the ear. People are paying attention to what you're talking about and what you stand on and the tenets that you prioritize. When you say, hey, this is what you need to do if you want these green dollars and if you want to rub shoulders with Paradise Books and Bread. And we all have the power to do that. We all have the power to do that as individual consumers if we wield it, yeah? So I really just want to leave off with that, because we can't do this without a full buy-in. Hybrid grapes are still really expensive. You know what I mean? This is something that we hope can be for the people, but right now it still is very precious. It has not, it's not an economy of scale just yet. It is still very small. So I just want to encourage you all to ask for them. By you asking for them, we can do more of this work together, yeah? And I want to open this up and see if anybody has any questions or input or anything like this. Iman, I saw you were popping out your skin earlier, girl. You good?
I was. But then inevitably you basically ended up asking the question that I was gonna ask.
Okay, so with that, I want y'all to give a round of applause for yourselves. You guys tapped into some stuff. Thank you. Thank you, Justine. Thank you, Justine. Thank you, Julie. Daddy guys taking their booties all day. We got Panayoli Pet Nat tomorrow. So and of course, happy birthday, Swan! Yeah.